Welcome to the Straight Yard Card. It's an honor for us today to have former United States national team standout JoeMax Moore with us. JoeMax, thanks for coming on the show.
My pleasure.
It's kind of great to catch up with you because there's been so many memories through the years. But could you kind of give us a summary of what you've been up to lately and how you've stayed involved in soccer?
Yeah, I retired back in '05 with not a real big idea as far as what to do next. I was, to be real honest, I was a little bit sick and tired of moving my family around the world and around the country, and so I just wanted to get settled and then slowly work my way back into the game. And so since then, I basically started a home business, and it's going extremely well.
But most folks remember you from the national team in '94, '98, and the 2002 World Cup. And maybe what they don't know is that along with John Harkes and Preki and a lot of the you guys were kind of the first players to break into the English First Division, kind of paving the way for a lot of Americans we have in the league now. What was your experience like back then and when you went to Everton? And did you feel a lot of pressure to succeed because you were an American? I mean, you got there right after Preki left.
Yeah, I spent 2 years in Germany, and I spent 3 years in England, and there's no doubt, they looked down upon Americans back then, and you really had to go prove yourself from day one. And so, yeah, I felt that pressure to a certain extent, but I enjoyed it. I had a great experience, especially at Everton, 3 years of playing in the top flight and playing with it against some of the best players in the world. Really, I would say it was the highlight of my career other than the World Cups I was part of.
Right. I mean, you really had a great start there, too, to Everton, and that allowed people to kind of open up immediately, kind of like they did with Landon, Donovan very recently. But my question is, after you left UCLA and you had a great college career, people should know you had no league here, domestic league, to play in. There was no MLS. NASL had been gone for almost a decade. And I was in the same boat with you as a player, but you found your way to Germany in 1994 with FC Saarbrücken. How did that come about? Because I believe you were actually under contract at the time with the USSF. So how did that evolve?
Yeah, we didn't have a professional league back here in the day, as you mentioned, and so I had a contract with the U.S. Soccer Federation. And after the '94 World Cup, I went and signed for Saarbrücken. Eric Winalda had some success there and kind of helped me get started. And I had a great time at the club. But, yeah, there was nothing here in the States back in the day, so we had to go figure it out somewhere else. And I got a door open for me, and I took advantage of it.
And I think, people don't realize that, and Landon had this experience when he was there, too. It is a different culture. I mean, jumping into Germany, and you had great success there, with not only Saarbrücken but also Nurmberg. But as a young man, how did you handle that transition? It had to be difficult.
It was difficult. I mean, especially the first 6 months where you have no idea as far as the language, just dealings with the teammates, finding your way around a new city. I lived in France, across the border every day, but in all honesty, just renting my own place and trying to put the kitchen cabinets together, because when you rent an apartment, it comes pretty bare. and so, honestly, the first 6 months was rough. I remember one time I was trying to put my cabinets together, and the thing just came crashing down on my head, glass shattering everywhere, and I just sat down on my bed, honestly, and just thought, what the heck am I doing here,
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
it was a rough transition, but honestly, after 6 months, all of my teammates just somehow spoke perfect English then, and made it a little easier.
It does make it easier because, a lot of Dutch folks speak English, a lot of German folks, because of all the American bases there, they speak English as well, thank goodness. But, one of the things that I look back on now when I look at your success there overseas, whether it be England or Germany, or I look at McBride, or I look at Reyna, what kind of player characteristics do you have to bring if you really want to succeed? Because we've got a lot of kids overseas right now, and we don't have to go down the list, but a lot of them aren't getting the kind of playing time that they want, and in some cases they're coming home before they would like to. What are kind of the top 2 or 3 things players need to keep in mind when they head to England or Germany or Italy or Spain? What does it take to succeed?
I think a lot of discipline as far as, being a good professional. I think a serious amount of determination, because like I talked about before, it's not easy. And I just think a real good, strong, hard work ethic, number one, is probably the most important factor. I mean, there's good players all over the world, and, right here in the U.S. we certainly have our fair share, but unless you go over there and have the ability as a player, but then the work ethic to outwork everyone else that's fighting for one of those, 20 spots, let's say, you really don't have much of a chance.
But you knew that going over there, right? I mean, you knew you were going to have to bust your ass harder than anybody else and to make that team. And sometimes I think, and this isn't to put some of the players that are going overseas now down, but I think a lot of them, have this idea that, not so much that they're owed a spot, but they've had such success coming through our youth system that maybe they think that, like I said, I don't want to use the word owed. Maybe they think they're a lot better than they are, and they don't realize how much work they really have to do. I don't mean to put you on the spot on that question, though.
No, that's absolutely the truth. I mean, that's just the way it is. Honestly, to me, the working hard part is the easy part, and I wish more players had that mindset, because they certainly go a lot further. But honestly, that's got to become the number one priority. You got to go over there, outwork everyone else to have any chance whatsoever.
Yeah.
And I think that starts at a young age. For some reason, that was just part of my fabric. I just always, that was the easy part of the game for me. So I had enough other qualities around the goal and stuff that it just worked out for me. But it wasn't for a lack of effort, man. I worked my butt off every day.
Because when you're working down that list of qualities that the players in Europe really need to embody, I was going down my hand and saying, like, well, that's Michael Bradley to a T. He even talks about how his entire apartment, wherever he's lived, has been incredibly bare because he doesn't spend much time in it, to tell you the truth.
Yes. Yeah, I'm sure you'll get a lot of similar stories if you interviewed, the 20 or 30 of them that are there doing it.
Right.